Warm welcome. You're watching To The Point. I'm Preeti Choudhry. We continue to get you the very latest. Let me break it down on what's happened today. Massive setback for hijab petitioners after months of upheaval. The Karnataka High Court upheld the ban on Muslim girls wearing hijab on campus. Dismissing the petition, the court said hijab is not essential religious practice in Islamic law. Soon after the verdict, Karnataka Chief Minister has urged all to maintain peace.
For months, protests rocked not just Karnataka, but different parts of India. For months, there was raging polarization in educational campuses, allegedly by vested interests. All that may possibly end now. The Karnataka High Court has put out its final word in this matter. After hearing the case for over 11 days, the three-judge bench ruled that the hijab ban in educational institutions is valid in law. The High Court dismissed all petitions, putting out a detailed order exploring all religious aspects that were raised in the course of the hearing. The court primarily ruled on three issues. One, that wearing hijab is not an essential Islamic practice. Two, that students can't object to uniform. And three, that the government can issue an order with regards to uniformity in educational campuses.
The court has relied upon the principles evolved by the Supreme Court in Shabarimala, 4 or 5 principles, and has upheld that there was no evidence produced by the petitioners to hold that it formed part of ERP.
Soon after the verdict, the Karnataka government hailed the order with Chief Minister Bommai appealing for peace with this message.
I request everybody in the society, in the parents, teachers, students, and those who are concerned about education to whatever the High Court has said, we have to see that it is implemented and peace and order is maintained.
The Karnataka High Court in its order also slammed the violence and riot-like situation that broke out weeks ago in parts of Karnataka over the controversy. The court even alleged that an unseen hand was involved in the violence. The petitioners, students in Udupi, who spearheaded the right to wear hijab stir, have made it clear that they will not end their fight now. They will be approaching the Supreme Court for relief, they say.
We will take our time and we will let everyone know about this. But we will be going on all the legal ways and we will take this procedure forward.
The Karnataka High Court's order now puts an end to the hijab controversy that's taken center stage in the last few months across the state of Karnataka. Over to the top court now to see whether it will agree with the Karnataka High Court's stand or will provide some sort of relief to the petitioners. Along with Pramod and Nagarjun, this is Nolan Pinto for India Today.
The petitioners in this case have decided to approach the Supreme Court. However, there is a question which looms large, and we're going to keep away from the political debate of it all because you'd hear quite a bit of it through the course of this evening. But let's just focus right now on one very pertinent question. In this, many have come out and said that the court upholding the ban on hijab is going to empower the Muslim women, get them to actually come out. Will it actually empower the Muslim women, or somewhere down the line will it take away their freedom of choice of what they would want to wear? Let's take it to our panelists. Joining me this evening is Ambar Zaidi, social activist. I have Zakia Soman, co-founder, Bharatiya Muslim Mahila Andolan. Karuna Nandi, advocate, Supreme Court. Karuna Nandi, I'd want to come to you first in terms of just the court today interpreting, the constitution, the law. What do you make of it?
The court has essentially said that the hijab is not an essential part of Islam, and hence the educational institutions by government order, etc., have the ability to decide what uniform the students will wear and whether or not the hijab is allowed. I think the challenges in this judgment are a few, and they have very wide-ranging implications. One point I think that I think is difficult to reconcile is the fact that they haven't addressed the argument that was placed before them adequately, in my opinion, since the judgment is out, in Bijoy Emmanuel versus the state of Kerala. And the argument there is that if Jehovah's Witnesses can say that they won't respond to the national anthem in a particular manner, but will respect it, won't make noise, for example, right? Because they're Jehovah's Witnesses, and the Supreme Court in this instance, can say that because you have conscientiously held that value in your mind, we will allow that, right? Then the question of essential religious practice need not have been gone into in that case, and that therefore arguably also in this case, right? And that point has not been addressed. What has also been said in this judgment is that the public order phrase that was used in the government order is completely different from the public order phrase that is used in Article 25, which is what gives the government which would give any state the right to curtail the freedom of any person to wear a hijab or a mangalsutra or a bindi, in universe or a cross, indeed, in this educational setting. And they have said that, look, public order here means something different because they didn't adequately put their mind to it. I think that this is the real problem. I think these 2 points are extremely problematic, but I think the biggest problem is to not ask the government what they mean by secularism. That when you are mentioning secularism in the act under which you have the order, when the word secularism is used in Article 25 in the Constitution, what does the government mean by it? Do they mean that there will be no expression of religious sort of personal artifacts on the person? Because in that case, I would think that why don't we ask our public functionaries, chief ministers who are wearing saffron robes, why don't we take the government stand and apply it across the board? And I think the government should have been put in the spot exactly on that point.
All right, okay. The petitioners in this case have decided to approach the Supreme Court. We're going to get, we're going to break that down as well later. But Zakia Soman, from somebody who comes from the community, who worked very closely with women from the community, I want to ask you a very simple question, because right now, across many debates through the course of the day, where we've heard, various politicians come out and say that this will empower the Muslim woman. Modern, they will modernize is a strange concept here, but that term has been used. Do you see that this will empower or limit where the young Muslim woman who has been wearing a hijab to school is concerned?
Yeah, so actually what you are saying, Preeti, is the crux of the matter. But before coming to that, I would say that the High Court has said that it is not an essential practice of Islam. I would even go further and say that it is a patriarchal imposition, and it's certainly not a essential practice in my understanding. But having said that, I will come to your question, which is the very key question here. How fair it is to deny girls their fundamental right to education in the name of hijab, right? So girls have a right to be in school with or without hijab. And I would refer to what Ms. Nandi just now said, that when we have so much religion in public life, when we have members of parliament sitting in the parliament wearing saffron robes, then why are we singling out the girls? So in that sense, this aspect of discriminatory behavior towards the girl should have been addressed, which unfortunately has not been addressed by the court. And this is not going to be an empowering decision to me, because it's already happening that several girls have missed their exams because they refused to enter the examination hall without their hijab, and they were not allowed entry. And we know that the large sections of Muslim community are very poor, and are also conservative. And the easiest way out for several parents would be to ask the girls to drop out of school, and the next step would be to get them married. So it's going to result in a huge disadvantage for the girls, especially girls from the economically weaker sections and those who come from conservative background. I don't see how it can be empowering. You cannot discriminate. I feel that there is a lot of there was a lot of scope for resolving this crisis locally. Some middle ground could have been found between the college, the education institution, and the parents. And some via media could have been worked out, whereby something like the headscarf of the same color as uniform, something like that. But you feel that right from the first day, this issue has been politicized, by all sides. And here the vested interests have taken over, and the fundamental question of the girls' right to education has been sort of, it has gone out of focus, and the girls' education has become the primary casualty, according to me, Preeti.
All right, I want to bring in Amber Zaidi as well, who's of the opinion that this will modernize where these young Muslim girls who were wearing hijab till now. But Ms. Zaidi, I want to ask you, a question that the fact that this was patriarchal, I think whichever side, if you're sane and you're looking at it at a very, basic level, you'd say that, yes, it was patriarchal, whichever side of the divide, whether you agree that there should be hijab or no hijab, you stand on. But, it's a question that Zakia Soman has raised, and I'm sure she knows the religion way better than at least I do, where she says it's not even intrinsic to Islam. But having said that, when you're looking at conditioning, can you enforce conditioning by taking away the hijab? Aren't you actually getting these girls to pull out of schools because they come from very conservative setups?
See, first of all, I would like to say one thing, that it has once again been clarified by the High Court of Karnataka that hijab is not essential practice of Islam, and it is just a part of regressive mentality which is being imposed on Muslim women since ages. Now, I think it will help Muslim women to understand that it is not part of Islam. And then we talk about the secularism and freedom of expression. Secularism means above religion, not embracing all the religion at the same time. When we go to secular institution where the uniformity is important to maintain, and the educational institutions have their own right to impose their own or implement their own laws to maintain the uniformity at secular institutions. We need to understand their own their rights also. When we talk about our freedom of expression or right to express ourselves, then we need to understand that also. Nobody is a blanket banning the hijab or burqa in India. It is just about at secular institutions. And before me, just somebody was also mentioned about Yogi ji wearing saffron robe in Parliament. Similarly, Awasthi ji also wear that topi and that attire, that supposedly the religious attire or the cultural identity to the that place. So we are not talking about the public place or in public life, just we are talking about the educational institution, that is secular institutions. We have the provision for religious institutions also to profess and implement their own right in their institutions, similarly for the secular institutions also. So here we need to understand, for everybody I'm saying, that we need to understand and focus on the education of Muslim women, because the literacy rate of Muslim community is very low, and we need to focus on the right.
But Ms. Zaidi, that's, I don't think anyone here on this panel is denying the fact that it was it was a sign of patriarchy, or that it was
about the political party.
No, but I'm asking, Ms. Zaidi, I'm not saying anyone in this panel is denying the fact that this was patriarchal or this was intrinsic, or they are trying to say it was intrinsic to Islam. They're saying no. Absolutely. But the question that I'm asking you is, because you also, share the faith as Ms. Soman, and and you both are better, you'll have better judgment than possibly Ms. Nandi or I here. And I want to ask you this question again: do you think this will empower a young girl whose parents are extremely traditional, conservative, who make this little child wear a hijab, but at least she had access to education. If tomorrow she's not allowed to wear it, do you still see that parent sending their young girl to school? Do you still see that?
See, I have seen in majority of Muslim majority areas, there has been private or public schools where hijab is part of uniform. As it has already been mentioned in constitution, their secular educational institutions have their own right on way to implement the uniformity. I have seen, I come from UP and I've seen such public school where this head cover or head scarf is a part of uniform, and also the Hindu girls also follows the same. So it's not just about what is going to like how it's going to be. People need to understand what is right and what is legal and what is Islamic.
All right.
So
Miss Nandi wanted to come in.
We need to understand that it's not Quranic.
Miss Zaidi,
in the name of Islam,
but nobody is saying that
Muslim
here.
women have been
No.
exploited.
This entire, let's not call it a debate, but this discussion had nothing to do with whether it's intrinsic to Islam. That has been established. It's not. But I want to go back to Miss Nandi there. She wanted to make a point. But Miss Nandi, the counter by, the likes of Miss Zaidi is, when you talk about saffron-clad politicians, there is no uniform in Parliament. There is a uniform when you go to school. And maybe that's what needs to be followed.
The point is slightly different. The point is that when you are limiting people's freedom of expression and when you are taking away something that is very dear to them, it has to be within the four corners of the law. And what this judgment, unfortunately, I think, in my very respectful opinion, falters, is where it falters, is it ascribes to government drafts people a lack of diligence and care. And so if there is a lack of diligence and care in using the word public order and it's not like the public order and the constitution, then on what basis are they limiting the right of these young women to wear something that is very much in accordance with the uniform? It was, I think we all saw it. It was similar colors, etc. So I think the problem here, and the reason that I speak of secularism in the public space, is because just because the heckling and the denial of rights has been in this narrow zone does not mean that the government must not be consistent in how expect secularism to be brought in. We are not France. This is not a laïcité jurisdiction where there is no religion in public life. This is India.
All right.
Where there is a religion in public life.
All right. Ms. Soman, would you want to add to it and then we'll close the show?
I would just say that girls should be in school with or without hijab. And we need to enable our girls to educate themselves, empower themselves. And I think it's very, very wrong to do politics at the cost of the girls' education and the girls' future. So yeah, that's what I would say.
All right. Yes, you want to add something more, Ms. Soman?
Yeah, because I feel that this is also happening. There is a context. The context is that there is a huge climate of religious polarization in our country, and at such a time to have this kind of a flashpoint is not good for our democracy. It's not good for our society, and it doesn't speak well for us as a people.
Ms. Zaidi, 10 seconds. Would you want to conclude?
I just want to say just one thing, that we need to focus on education, because education is the fundamental right, not hijab. We need to focus on a right direction for everybody, for all the political leaders who has been trying to polarize this issue.
I think I would reckon that we all do agree on that. We want to leave our viewers with just some food for thought. If there's a child who is wearing a hijab right now and going to school, whether it's right or wrong, whichever side of the divide you stand on, if now with the ban which is being upheld by law, will she still be allowed by her parents who possibly are very conservative, and would she still go to school? Is a question we want to leave our viewers on. Can conditioning be enforced is what we are asking our viewers. Should there be conditioning? Should there be modernization where a sector is concerned? Of course, but can you enforce it? We're going to leave it at that. The petitioners in this case are approaching the Supreme Court. Thank you all three ladies for joining us. Up next is Rahul Kamal.